So we are going back to basics, but we're going to turn it into a premium way of doing it. So today the topic is how to study and learn your preflop ranges. I see some of my students here in the chat and in the session, and they kind of know how much of a stickler I am for preflop. I question a lot of preflop decisions. I'm a big stickler for preflop play because I think preflop is the most important street in all of poker. And the reason is you make preflop decisions every single hand. That's number one. So you make them a lot. That makes them important. Number two, if you make a mistake preflop, you're also going to make mistakes on the flop, on the turn, on the river, and mistakes compound. So mistakes preflop, while they seem very subtle in the moment, are going to cost you a lot of money on later streets. So I am a big poker's redheaded stepchild, preflop. Yeah. All right. I want you to be honest in the chat here. How many of you enjoy studying preflop? How many of you enjoy studying preflop? You guys are all liars. You guys are liars. No one loves studying preflop. It's boring. So, all right. Now for a serious question, okay? I want you to answer. I want you to take a second, and I want you to be very, very honest. In the last month of playing poker, I'm not talking push-fold charts, okay? I'm not talking about studying your 10 big blind push call ranges. How many hours in the last month have you spent studying pre-flop ranges? So, for example, your flat calling ranges, your raise for sin ranges. How many hours have you spent in the last month studying pre-flop ranges? So I'm seeing answers from 0 to 10. And a lot of answers around 3, 4, I'll tell you guys this. So I have been playing for 15 years professionally now, and I still try to dedicate an hour a week to studying pre-flop game. And that's after all the hours I put in poker and stuff, and I'm consistently still trying to study and improve my pre-flop strategies. And so, I probably spend 4 to 5 hours, like 4 hours a month, but that's strictly dedicated to pre-flop. And then when I'm reviewing hands and stuff, I pretty much check my pre-flop spots every single time when I'm reviewing hands and stuff. So that's not accounting those, but I spend a lot of work on pre-flop because I think it's important. And pre-flop can be pretty intimidating. There's I don't even know how many charts on there. There's probably 5,000 charts on here, 3,000 charts, 1,000 charts. I don't even know. If you go through every single little pre-flop range here, there's a lot of charts, and it gets pretty hard to memorize. So what we're going to go at today is I'm going to tell you guys how I think about and construct my pre-flop ranges. And I have some simple heuristics and rules that really help me nail down my pre-flop strategies to free up my mind to think about other things. And the reason I really like the way I think about pre-flop ranges is because it really helps me post-flop. And this will probably come up later, but I'll explain how it comes up later. So let me get my questions up here. Okay, let me see here. All right, so we're going to start off really basic, and we'll get more advanced as the seminar goes on today. There's not a structured PowerPoint, anything like this. This is just kind of me going through stuff, telling you how I think about things. We're going to be doing a lot of guess and check work today. So 40 big blinds. We are the button. And whoa, no, I don't want to show you. Okay. This is not what we're looking at. I want you guys in chat to tell me 40 big blinds on the button, raise first in. Tell me very quickly, what's the bottom of your opening range? I want to know what the bottom of your opening range is very quickly. How do you think about right now? I say, what's your button opening range, 40 big blinds? I want a 3-second, 2-second answer of how you describe that to me. Okay, I see a lot of good answers. Now, I see 2 different types of answers, okay? First, I'll go to the ones So some of you guys are answering 50% of hands, which is correct. You're raising about 50% of hands from the button. That is correct. But can you tell me what 50% is? What's the bottom of your opening range with 50% of hands? When you tell me you're opening 50% of hands from the button, what's the bottom of your opening range? So I really like, there's people that have been answering, and I will add, a lot of them are my students. The way I'm going to structure my preflop ranges, so a lot of the answers were correct, but I think the answers that are the best correct are the ones that mention the bottom of their offsuit range and the bottom of their suited range. So 40 big blinds on the button. I know right now my opening range is suited 5s, offsuit 8s, and I mix with offsuit 7s and suited 4s. Okay? Offsuit 8s and 7s, and I mix with it's basically, all offsuit 8s, all suited 5s, and I know I mix with suited 4s and offsuit 7s. Right where you are chatting, Jacqueline. So 40 big blinds on the button. I mentioned offsuit 8s, suited 5s. Okay? This is a 51% range. Most people said, yeah, I raised 50% of hands. But at least for me personally, it's really hard. Is 8-6 suited in the top 50%? Is Jack 5 suited in the top 50%? Yeah, Mark, this is where you're going to type the chat. Offsuit 8s, suited 5s. And right now I know, okay, I'm starting to mix with some suited 4s. I know I'm mixing with offsuit 7s. But the really easy way for me personally, what I think is the easiest way for people to do this is to remember button 40 big blinds. We're raising offsuit 8s and suited 5s. Yeah? You're not supposed to see the chat, guys. Yeah, you guys are not. I'm the only one that can see the chat. So that way you can answer without having to, worry about other people seeing your answers. So when I ask a question, there's 109 of you. I got about 30 answers. So that means about 70 of you didn't answer, okay? So you want to get the most out of this. I know it's New Year. There's a lot of new people here. You guys need to answer the questions. That's the best way to get something out of this. So this is going to be interactive. Yeah, so definitely answer the questions. Offsuit 8s, suited 5s, okay? 40 big blinds. It's going to stay pretty consistent. Like, I know I mix with offsuit 7s, and then you can kind of fudge from there. If you just get suited 5s and offsuit 8s, obviously, like, I think most people know they're going to raise all their offsuit aces. They're going to raise, if you miss, like, Jack 4, Jack 3, 10, 4, Jack 7, King 5, you're going to hit 90% of this range right there just by hitting suited 5s, offsuit 8s, okay? I think that's a lot easier way to remembering than just, oh, I'm raising 51% of hands. Well, is 9-7 offsuit in top 50% of hands? It's a tough answer to the question. I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you offsuit 8s and suited 5s. Do I put these heuristics in a Quizlet or something that I drill? It's kind of memorization. So yeah, you could drill. So what I'll do, I'll just make a notepad with you. This is how I kind of study. So 40 BBs, button, RF5, offsuit 8s, suited 5s. Then I'll put mix 7s and suited 4s. Okay, that's my button opening range. Do I fold A7 off and A6 off with 40 big blinds? No. How I do it is that's the base of my range. I'm covering a lot of it. Now, it's pretty easy to figure out. Well, you're obviously going to raise more aces and more kings than just offsuit 8s because aces and kings are strong. Suited 5s, obviously, are going to raise more suited aces, suited 4s, suited 3s. The point is to get like the bottom of the range hands. Like 9-5 suited is a hand most people miss and don't raise on the button. Jack 8 offsuit is a hand most people miss and don't raise on the button. These are the hands that make up a large portion of the weight right here that most people miss. For example, someone put their raising suited 6s, offsuit 9s. Like, you're missing a huge chunk of the range then if you're missing those hands. Right where you guys are typing these questions, where do I type my answers? Into the questions box? Yep, that's where you type it. These are all tournament ranges too. I saw some people mention cash games. These are all tournaments. All my topics that you see me do on poker coaching are all going to be tournaments. We think the big blind 3-bets often that we could fold queen 3 suited. No, I'd fold. I can guarantee you the big blind is not 3-betting enough for you to fold queen three suited. You should never go tighter than this range, almost ever. Juan says, man, this makes it so much easier. Hopefully. I think it does. What's the key for your cash game tables? We're just doing tournaments. Do you coach cash games? No, I do not. I just coach tournaments right now. So wow, it's eye-opening. Never go tighter than this. I'm way off. Okay, so it seems a lot of people like this method. And we're going to expand on this method. And I'm going to show you, no, these are nowhere close to 100 big blind cash ranges. They're like, you're raising like 40% on the button. Yes, this is the chat. Sorry, there's a lot of, I know we have a lot of new members in here. 109, this is awesome. Hey, Barry, yeah, right there is where you comment. So you guys, if you want to comment, answer my questions, you do it in the questions box is where you do that. Yep, Brad, that's where your questions go. All right, so off suited, suited fives, mixed sevens, and suited fours. So, okay, same drill. 40 big blinds, cutoff. What's your raise first in range from the cutoff? Is it really that important to have the exact range considering that the fringe hands or your EV is really low? I think it is because you would never, these are all very profitable raises and you can probably expand to go more than these ranges because people are going to overfold their big blind and overfold post flop. So I even personally go wider than this range, but this is the base of my range. Offsuit nines, suited sixes, a lot of people are saying, okay. So I see a lot of people getting pretty good, I see a lot of pretty good answers. Suited fives, offsuit eights, offsuit tens, suited 10. Okay, so a lot of good answers. A lot more people answered. So now I got to clear them all out. A lot of good answers. Okay, and I see a lot of people still doing percentages. But do you really know what 40% of your range is? So we're in the cutoff. 40 BBs, cutoff, RF5. I can tell you right here. Offsuit nines and suited sixes. Okay, kind of a lot easier. What do we raise on the button? Offsuit eights. Now we're in the cutoff. We're going to be tighter. Offsuit nines. Suited fives on the button. Well, now we're at suited sixes. Okay. Button. We're going to switch this to the cutoff. Boom. What do you know? Offsuit nines, suited sixes. All right. Whatever. 9-6 suited, mix this fold. I'd probably raise it because I think of suited sixes. Who cares? So offsuit nines, suited sixes. You just raise most of your cutoff range. Obviously, offsuit nines, you're going to raise more offsuit aces than just like these hands. I know personally, like K8 off is the bottom of the King X range. I know H5 off is the bottom of that range. But like the point of this is to get a majority of the range right. Like I know I'm raising more suited kings, suited queens, but now you are getting a majority of the range here with the cutoff. Okay. 40 BB, hijack. Offsuit tens, suited sevens. You guys are starting to see the pattern, right? You guys, it's just like, you just get a little bit tighter. So now you go to the hijack, 40 big blinds, boom, offsuit tens, suited sevens. Much easier way to think of these ranges. You go to the low jack, okay? Now, like the low jack, I think the offsuit tens are still going to stay in. It's going to be like offsuit tens and suited eights in the low jack. Does the range change if you're playing low stakes? No, it does not. It actually would potentially get wider if people are too tight and don't 3-bet you enough. So 40 BB low jack, I'm going to say it. These are like my guesses. This is how I make sure I'm doing it right. So offsuit tens still. I'm going to say offsuit tens, suited eights in the low jack. Low jack. Boom. Suited eights, offsuit tens. Okay. I'm nailing almost all the range right now. You know, if I'm missing king 5 suited or something, like I know I'm going to probably, if I know suited eights, I'm raising king 7 suited at least. Under the gun 1, we're going to start to go to the suited nines and mix out. It's going to be like offsuit jacks. Okay. So now these offsuit tens are coming out. So it's offsuit jacks and the suited eights are still in there at under the gun 1. So, and then under the gun, it goes to suited nines, offsuit jacks. Okay? Seems like a lot of people thought that. I've seen a lot of the same. Under the gun 1 and under the gun 2 are the same. This is under the gun 7. This is under the gun 8. That's how I think about it. This is an under the gun 8-handed, and this is under the gun 7-handed. I'm way too tight under the gun 1. How do you vary these ranges if there's a disparity in stack sizes between you and the blinds? That way you have to use some, if you have 40 big blinds and, you have to start to use some fudge work on which ranges you want to start to use depending on, if you have 40 big blinds and obviously everyone else has 20 big blinds, you're going to be raising a 20 big blind range because that's effectively the stack size that you're playing. If you have 3 people that are playing 20 big blinds and 1 player playing 30, you're probably going to raise 20 big blind ranges because you have three rejam stacks, so you still have to be tight. I kind of personally use 40 big blinds as my base point. We can just look at the button here, for example. I know when we go to say 20 big blinds on the button, we need to raise tighter because we're going to get rejammed on. So these offsuit 8s are going to come out, so we go to offsuit 9s. So at 20 big blinds, now we're back to offsuit 9s and the suited 5s come out. So it's obviously going to be a little tighter. At 20 big blinds, going to get rejammed on. The point is to not get this perfect, but to have a very good heuristic to help you in game quickly realize what your raise first in range is. Okay. To be slightly tighter or slightly looser. It depends on your skill level. If you're comfortable post flop, I'd probably be a little looser than this. If you're not comfortable post flop, you could be a little bit tighter. Do you ever visualize the graphics on the right rather than memorize the numbers? I don't really memorize the numbers. I know the numbers. I just know them. But I think of it exactly how I'm describing it. Can I please repeat under the gun 1? You guys have access to all these ranges, by the way. Under the tools, you just go to tools here and you go to GTO preflop charts. You guys all have access to these. So any of these ranges you want to go back and see later, because there's so many of you in here today, you can go back and, you can do this. You can pull this up right now while I'm doing the webinar. Yeah, this is premium only, is what people told me. Is this not premium only, or is this everyone? Yeah, I was told it was premium only. It said premium on yeah, my webinars are premium only. That's what I thought. I just never, normally with this many people, it's not just premium. So I think one of mine a month there. All right. Whether you adjust because you're being the big or the small stack. Well, you're playing the effective stacks really. So because you play based off the effective stack size. Okay. So when you're playing 20 big blinds and everyone else is playing 40, they have to play effectively 20 big blinds against you. So I would raise our 20 big blind ranges. So raise first in ranges are pretty easy, right? I might have been wrong. 10-4 suited was an open. Jack 2 suited was full. Yep, you're right. 10-4 suited is an open on the button. That's probably the worst hand that we're opening. So raise first in ranges are pretty easy, I think, because they're always static in terms of there's not other variables, and you just know there's only one time it folds to you in the low jack, and you have to figure it. There's no other positions you have to adjust for. So we're gonna get a little trickier now, okay? And we're gonna use the same principles that we just used, and let's go to a very, very common situation. 40 big blinds, effective. It folds to the button, who raises to 2.3x. Okay, small blind folds, you're in the big blind. Very quickly, tell me what your defending range looks like. I don't care if it's 3-bet or call. I just want to know about which hands you're V-pipping. Very quickly. Everything. You're laughing because you know that's probably not right. A lot of people are... Okay, any suited offsuit 9s. Most of you, everything I've seen so far. So most people are getting the suited part right. Offsuit 7s, what people are saying offsuit 5. I would say the majority of the answers I'm seeing are way too tight. Suited 10, yeah, the majority of the answers are too tight. Okay. Suited 4s, offsuit 6s. Okay. So I think it's close to all. So it is all suited combos. So I think a majority of people were getting the suited part right, that you defend all suited combos, 40 big blinds. Okay? But the offsuit side is where it gets a little tricky. I haven't studied these ranges. Someone said, yeah, a lot of people don't study pre-flop ranges because pre-flop is not that fun to study. But it's the most important thing to study, which, this is kind of like the base fundamental to everything. So, all right, 40 big blinds. Your big blind facing a raise from the button. So I'm going to do this. 40 big blinds, big blind versus button, open. I'm going to tell you very quickly in 3 seconds what my defending range is. Offsuit sixes, all suited. Okay, offsuit sixes, all suited. Boom. Every offsuit six is in there, all suited cards. Now, every offsuit six, how I personally do it is I know, well, obviously I'm going to defend more offsuit kings. I just know I'm defending all offsuit kings. You're probably going to defend, like if you miss queen deuce off, queen three off, you're going to be doing just fine. If you miss jack four off, you'll be fine. If you miss like this stuff over here, you're doing fine. But offsuit sixes, all suited hands, and then just remember, hey, I got to defend more offsuit kings and queens because those are higher cards. Everyone see here? Very clear, offsuit sixes are the floor of the range. And later on, we're going to figure out how this helps us a lot pre-flop. Okay? Offsuit sixes. Okay? So 40 big blinds versus the button. Offsuit sixes are the bottom of the range. What about versus cutoff? We'll do this big blind work a decent amount because most people overfold their big blind. So we're going to spend some time on this. Cutoff. How do you do your offsuit range from the cutoffs? Good. Most people are getting it all right away. Perfect. Offsuit sevens, all suited. Most people are getting it. Perfect. Offsuit sevens and all suited. You see, like I'm guessing here before I even look at it. Like this is because like I've done some work here. Boom. Offsuit sevens, suited hands. You see now we're starting to mix with these offsuit sixes. They're starting to mix out. Obviously, we're going to call the ones that can make a straight down here, and we're going to call the high card ones. But these middling ones are now coming out. Same with the middling fives. So, okay. Hijack, not going to ask. Probably going to be offsuit eights. See now in the hijack, these middling offsuit sevens are starting to come out. Still all the suited hands. The low jack is going to still be offsuit eights, I believe. Yep, so the low jack range is kind of the same, still offsuit eights. Once we get to under the gun one, these offsuit eights should start mixing out. So they're still kind of in there at jack eight, and then under the gun is offsuit nines, I know. So under the gun versus under the gun, we're at offsuit nines. And you start to see under the gun is where these offsuit aces start to mix out, okay? So offsuit nines is the floor of the range versus under the gun. And now you see like 7 deuce suited folds, but you don't really need to remember that. If you call 7 deuce suited, you're probably not making too big of a mistake versus under the gun. But if you want to get perfect and realize it, you're like, yes, I fold 7 deuce suited, but that's really not that important. It's only 4 combos. But learning that you shouldn't call queen six off versus the big blind is probably pretty important because now you're 3 pips off your range, okay? Do I play pretty much a cash game strategy when I'm 100 big blinds deep? I don't think so. Tournament ranges are way different than cash game ranges, guys, because we have antes and cash games don't. Yep, all suited hands still have very good equity versus under the gun. So right away you can realize versus under the gun, the tightest range, you never fold a suited hand. So essentially, don't fold suited hands in the big blind versus a single raise. So this is a good question. Generally, someone asked what I mean by pip. When I say like queen six off, like queen seven off would be, when I say like 1 pip off, like, you know, if you defend queen eight off here, you're fine because you're just like 1 pip off, like queen nine, which is a call. So generically, what do you mix out first when the bet size is a little bit bigger? So as a general rule, I'll write this in the notes. Offsuit hands are very sensitive to raise size. Suited hands are not very sensitive to raise sizing. So what do I mean? All these ranges are versus like a 2.2x, okay? So let's just look at the button. Let's go back to the button here to make it simple. Yes, these are tournament ranges. Big blind versus raise from the button. So this is versus a 2.2x. Okay. So if there's a min raise, I'm probably going to expand here. I'll probably defend Jack 3 and Jack Deuce versus a min raise, and I'll probably expand all these offsuit hands, 6-4, 4-3. Like I'm going to raise wider. If they make it like 2.5x, I'm probably taking out a lot of these offsuit 5s and even starting to mix out these offsuit 6s. Your offsuit hands are going to be very sensitive to the raise size, and the suited hands are probably not too sensitive. Do I adjust for different positions? Of course. What if it's a 3.5x? I mean, I don't know the exact answer versus a 3.5x, but I'm going to play way tighter than this range versus a 3.5 than a 2.2. Suited hands have a lot better equity realization than offsuit hands. So when people are only opening the 2 big blinds, you should go much wider. I simplify now. Normally I know I'm offsuit 6s. I probably very simply would go to offsuit 5s at the minimum. Does it go tighter when you go to 60 big blinds? Nope, stays pretty much the same. It's not going to go much tighter. I think it's still going to be offsuit 6s. Yeah, offsuit 6s come in. You even see like 10-5, 8-5 come in a little bit. So we're actually almost at like offsuit 5s at 60 big blinds. So it actually went a little looser. With how much ante are those ranges calculated? To be honest, I don't know. I'm assuming it's a normal like 10% ante. Why is 40 big blinds your baseline? Because that's probably the stack size that is like, it's a really good point because you can adjust downwards for when you're 20 big blinds. You can adjust upwards for 60. That's just how I've always done it. Okay, wow. Lots of questions coming in. I spend most of my time studying tournaments at 40 big blinds. Is this why you raise 2x to weaker hands versus? I'm not sure I understand that question. Any idea when the 30 big blind charts will be up? Actually, I don't know. It's kind of annoying. Are we folding suited hands in the big blind to a bet? Does it look? Nope. You can see it right here. Never folding a suited hand. Okay. All right. So now we're going to get a little bit trickier, okay? So we're going to get trickier now. Probably the stuff that I've given you easy questions so far. All this stuff has been pretty easy. If you play like, seriously, if you study pre-flop, you probably knew, maybe not exactly, but you had a pretty good idea of the ranges. I asked pretty simple questions. So we're going to get tougher now. Okay. 40 big blinds, you're on the button facing a 2.3 cutoff raise. Tell me very quickly what hand you VPIP. What's your VPIP range? What's your VPIP range? 40 big blinds, button facing a 2.3x range from the cutoff. Go. Offsuit jacks, 8s. So again, if you're saying 37%, I want you to know what 37% of hands is. I don't know what 37% of hands is. I couldn't tell you. So I'm assuming a lot of people as well couldn't tell you. If I've been doing this for 15 years and I can't tell you what 37% of hands is, I'm assuming a lot of you can. Offsuit jacks and 8s, offsuit 8s, suited 7s, all pairs, offsuit 9s, suited 10s, suited 9s, offsuit 10s. Okay, I'm seeing answers all over the board. This is why I asked this question. All over the board. I've seen ranges that are way too wide, and I've seen ranges that are way too loose. So I told you it was going to get tougher. I don't know if I've seen the exact answer yet. I deleted a bunch of them quickly because I got a bunch of answers. I don't know if there was an exact answer yet. I'll tell you right now. Offsuit, tens. All right, Mark Bell just gave me the correct answer. Colin just gave me the correct answer. Anyone else just gave me the correct answer? Nope. Very few got the answers right. They got one side right, the other side wrong. So, yeah. I would say like 80% of the people got it wrong. A lot of people were close, but most people got it wrong. Offsuit tens, suited eights. There's going to be some suited sevens in there, but it's only going to be like the ones that can make straights. So versus the cutoff, this is at 60. I want to go to 40. Offsuit tens, suited eights. I'm not worrying about right now, 3-bet versus call. We're not going to worry about that right now. Offsuit tens, suited eights. Now you kind of extrapolate that to like, oh, probably going to defend more suited kings. Suited kings are really good hands. So we're down to like king 4 suited. Obviously, I think most people know they should call every suited ace at least. And then like, 9-7 suited sneaks in there because it can make it straight. So a lot of people were saying like suited sevens, but a lot of the suited sevens come out. And a lot of people were saying offsuit nines. That was way too wide. Okay? Offsuit tens, suited eights. All right, we're going to go to the extreme now. If you are facing if you are on the button, so I'll write it out so you guys don't have to listen to my voice. So 40 big blinds, button facing we'll just say under the gun 8 raise. What's your VPIP? What's your VPIP here? 40 big blinds, button facing under the gun 8. By under the gun 8, I mean under the gun in this sim. Under the gun 8-handed is what I mean. See if anyone gets it right. Nope. Nope. Trying to see if anyone's gotten it right. Close. I'll give Mark Bell some credit. He's the closest so far, see? That, at least for my guess of what I... Colin's pretty close. So the same two people that got it last time are the ones that got it pretty close this time that I noticed. Kelly's pretty close. Okay. They are cheating. I hope you guys aren't cheating. If you're cheating, then you're not going to get anything out of this exercise. See 10s, suited 9s. All right. So the range isn't going to change that much. Okay. What's going to come out is this like Jack 10 off, Queen 10 off. And a little bit of King 10 off is going to come out. It's mostly going to be like offsuit Jack, suited 8s. What I'm going to get at. We're mixing offsuit 10s. How I think about it is I mix offsuit 10s. Suited 8s are still in there pure. Okay. So we're going to go versus under the gun. Okay. So offsuit 10s are out. So it's offsuit Jacks and suited 8s. So the suited 8s stay in. That's very constant. It doesn't matter what position. Okay. Yeah. If you're answering the question, so you guys, there are some people using the chart. When I'm asking this question, don't use the charts to answer it. Okay. Because if you're using the charts, you're not identifying what you don't know. Okay. So whenever I ask these questions, do not look at the charts. Because if you are, then you need to identify what you don't know. The cheat sheet. Yeah. Don't use the cheat sheet. Okay. So I'm not going to play well with suited 8s versus under the gun raise. I think you guys underestimate how easy it is to play well. You're in position. You just call a lot of bets. You just call when you flop some equity and stuff. Suited 7s too wide. Yep. Suited 7s are too wide. I mean, you're calling some suited 7s, but most of the middle ones. When mixing, based on pretty much every hand that mixes here, I kind of call because I think people play awful post flop. But that's me. So, if you fold Queen 8 suited and Jack 8 suited, like these hands are worth 0. So if you fold these hands, you're doing fine. Jack, better a call than a 3-bet. Yeah, mostly just calls. We're against under the gun. Most people are saying, oh, I'm so wrong or I'm so tight. Good. You guys are identifying where you need to study more. So instead of studying check raising or C betting or any of that stuff, I want you to spend the whole month of January only studying preflop. If you are struggling with this exercise, you should spend the whole month of January just studying preflop. And then once you get preflop down, I'll explain here. We'll go into it a little bit here at the end, how much easier postflop comes when you really know your knowing these ranges makes postflop so much easier. How do I remember to add in the small and middle suited connectors? I think it's, for me at least, it's kind of intuitive that I'm not folding 7-6 suited on the button. I know I'm calling the suited connectors. Does this apply to cash games? No. Answered that question a couple times. As you know, your opponent ranges then added equity straight draws. I've played for 40 years. I'm going to focus on this every day for a month. Okay. So suited eights. So basically how I remember my button versus VPIP is, this is how I remember it. Literally button versus any position, offsuit 10s, suited 8s, and then I add the caveat, offsuit 10s mix out as PFR gets to earlier position. So that's the only thing I got to remember. I got to remember offsuit 10s, suited 8s, and I remember the offsuit 10s mix out as the pre-flop raise gets to earlier position. So versus cutoff, all the 10s are in there. Versus hijack, now jack 10 off starts to come out. Versus low jack, now these two are out. King 10 off is still in versus low jack. Versus under the gun 7, king 10 off now is still in there a little bit, but still in there. And then versus under the gun, now queen jack off is starting to go out. The only real spot that changes is the offsuit side. These are the only 4 combos that really change. Every other hand, suited 8s, they're all in there versus every range, right? These change a little bit. This changes a little bit, but just these are the only hands that really change depending on the position. Your range is pretty static no matter the position that raises here. What changes is your 3-bet range. So versus cutoff, we 3-bet a lot of this weaker stuff here. Versus under the gun, we don't 3-bet this stuff. We 3-bet, some stronger hands. So you'd have to look in and do some study there. But that's the only thing that's changing. But our actual VPIP range doesn't really change much depending on the position. Make sense? All right, so let's do another one. Cutoff. 40 BB cutoff versus hijack raise. What is your cutoff VPIP range? Go. What is your cutoff VPIP versus a hijack? 40 big blinds. Let's go. No one's answered. Don't use the charts. All right. Jacko got it. Don't use these charts for cash. Do not use these charts for cash. Galen's close, but a little off. Joe's right. I'm not asking for percentages. I'm asking for the way I've been doing it. If you can tell me exactly what 32% of hands looks like, then by all means you can use percentages. But until you can do that, I don't recommend doing it. Al's close, but a little off. David's close, but a little off. A lot of people are just off. Colin's on. All right, so a lot of people are closer, but a lot of people are still off by a little bit. Okay, so offsuit jacks, suited 9s. Okay, before it was offsuit 10, suited 8s. Now we're in the cutoff. So cutoff versus raise from the hijack, offsuit jacks, suited 9s. Offsuit jacks, suited 9s. Offsuit jacks, suited 9s. Okay, and if you go to under the gun, now you see these offsuit jacks start to phase out, but the suited 9s stay. So we're very sensitive. We're seeing a pattern here. Okay, we're seeing a pattern here that the position the raise comes from really only affects the offsuit side. But here it doesn't even affect it much. Queen jack's already mixing. Now king jack starts to come off. if we're against under the gun. But suited 9 stay in. Like king 8 suited still in there. Like this stuff I think is kind of intuitive. You can figure out, oh, 9 8 suited, 10 8 suited. These are the better suited 8s. They're probably going to come in. Yep, no king 10 off. You got the button still behind you. So, okay. Well, I'm just going to go through a little quicker here. So hijack, we're going to be like offsuit queens, suited 10s. Smaller suited connectors are dropping off. Yeah, so like that's something to point out here is like these suited connectors are dropping off now, like in the cutoff and the hijack. For these mixed strategies, do you use a random number generator? Do you mentally make them more straightforward and more implementable? Most of the time, if a hand is like, you know, mixing like Jack 9 suited, what's going to depend here is, so this is in the hijack. What's going to depend if you call here, if you have really tight players behind you that don't squeeze, then this probably becomes a full frequency call. So you want to know who's left to act, like how often they squeeze, and you want to know like who's on the button, who's in the big blind, how likely you're getting to overcall. So it depends on the players behind you. It's the 3-bet and the call percentage based on the other players. I mean, not really. It's kind of based off of like how often you're going to get squeezed and stuff, if that's what you mean. Suited connectors come back in with bigger sacks, right? Not really. People flat suited connectors too much. Like if you go to here at like 80 big blinds, you're still folding suited connectors. I mean, they come back in a little bit, but you're still folding mostly. They're all break-even calls with 80 big blinds. So suited connectors, not very good hands, people. Not very good hands, people. You have a tip or trick for 66%, 33% raise call scenarios. Yes, I kind of do. We'll get into that in a few minutes. Let's cover this stuff first. Once you kind of know your VPIP, what your range is VPIPing, things become a lot easier in all situations. Okay, so we don't really need to worry about like low jack versus under the gun. It's going to be like most of your offsuit stuff comes out. Suited 10s stay in no matter what. Every position, suited like even under the gun 1 versus under the gun, suited 10s stay in. So suited 10s are always going to be VPIPed, okay? And then like most of your offsuit stuff is out here now, an ace queen off. That's not the point of this. Notice now too, most of your suited aces are out here. People flat too much with suited aces. Okay. So, what is the best way of learning this? It's grunt work. You got to go in, you got to realize, just kind of make a sheet just like this. This is how I memorize it. I look at, all right, what's my VPIP card? Like, it's pretty easy now. I see a pattern. And the cutoff, offsuit 9s, hijack, offsuit 10s, low jack, offsuit 10s. Once you get to earlier positions, like offsuit queens, suited 6s, suited 7s, suited 8s, like it's one pip up. Like it's just kind of, it's all pattern. It's easily memorizable because like you've seen, I've gotten almost every single one right. It's because I've spent the time kind of working on this. The way I'm doing it, I think, is the best way to memorize it. Do you recommend we study push-fold charts the same way? Yeah, I think it's a good way to study push-fold charts as well. Like, at 8 big blinds, you shove all suited 9s, and at, 10 big blinds, you shove all suited 8s. Just kind of do it that way. That's how I memorize things. All right, so what we've covered so far, yeah, flashcards are good. Hold on. Okay. So we have looked at raise first in ranges. We've looked at VPIP ranges, right? With these ranges very much in a turbo blind tournaments. Nope. Effective stack size. That's all that matters. Okay. Next. All right. So let's talk about 3-bet versus call. A lot of people have that issue. So now cutoff opened, and we're on the button. What are we VPIPing? 40 big blinds. We're on the button. Cutoff open. What are we VPIPing? Quick. Good. Offsuit 10s, suited 8s. Offsuit 10s, suited 8s. Okay? So we know that. So we've answered the question very quickly. We know what we're VPIPing, right? But how do we figure out which hands we want on a 3-bet? Right? That's the next question. For value, it's kind of easy. Most people know what type of hands you want to 3-bet for value, but where you want to 3-bet for bluffs. Well, an easy way, there's a couple ways to look at it. So Galen says the top and the bottom of those. Yep, I think that's one good way to think of it. You're going to kind of 3-bet your worst hands that you're VPipping. Pretty good strategy. If you just tend to take the worst hands that you VPip, 3-bet them, 3-bet your best hands, you're probably going to be doing pretty well. If you want to get more technical, the way I do it involves thinking back one step. What hands does the cutoff raise? Okay, 40 big blinds, cutoff raises. What are the worst offsuit hands that the cutoff raises? We care about offsuit hands. Why? So Vivian got it. So many people got it. Offsuit nines, correct. So the cutoff raises offsuit nines. That's the bottom of the cutoff raise, right? Cutoff, RFI, offsuit nines. Okay. Why do we care? Why do I care where what the bottom of the offsuit range is for the cutoff? Yeah. So most people got it. There's way more combos of offsuit hands. So now let's kind of walk through this. When I 3-bet, what hands is the cutoff going to fold right away when I 3-bet? When I'm bluffing, I want them to fold, obviously. What hands are they going to fold right away? What's the biggest block of hands that are going to fold? Bottom of the range. Okay, what hands are those? Probably offsuit nines. Okay, so if we look here, we're not even going to look at my 3-betting range, and we'll see if we're gonna see if we can work through to figure out what hands we should 3-bet. So I go cutoff, okay, versus a 3-bet from the button. Hey, what do you know? What's folding? Offsuit nines, right? Some offsuit tens are folding too. Offsuit nines and tens are where this is pretty much no suited hands are folded. This is 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28 combos of suited hands are folding. Okay, that's equal to 10-9 off and Jack-9 off. Okay, that's why we don't care about the suited side. So these are all where the fold. They fold 34% of hands. 30 of those. They fold 187. They fold 176 combos. 3-bet all in. No. This is 4-bet. This is the 4-bet. That's why you see it. This is the 4-bet range. This is the defend versus 3-bet. You only have an all-in or call range. So they fold 180 combos, we'll say for easy math, and 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28 of those combos are suited hands. 28 divided by 180. 15% of their folds are suited hands. What does that mean? 85% of their folding range is offsuit hands. 85% of their hands are offsuit hands or folding. What hands are going to fold? Offsuit nines, offsuit tens. So let's work out. Who can take a guess? What types of hands are we going to 3-bet from the button? What's an easy way to think about what types of hands that we want to 3-bet from the button? So you know what's the bottom of our flatting range. What's the bottom of our VPIP range from the button? So a lot of people are saying offsuit eights. Do we have offsuit eights? Do we VPIP any offsuit eights from the button? Yep. So I like Joe's answer. I like Darren's answer. Okay. So I've seen some good answers. One above the cutoff folding range, 3-bet. Okay. So let's work backwards. Okay. I'm going to pull up my note sheet so you guys can see this. Okay. So 40 BBs, button versus cutoff, open. Okay. So cutoff worst opens are offsuit nines and tens. Ones that fold. Button worst VPIPs are offsuit tens and suited eights. And if you can't follow, this replay is going to be up. You can go ahead and you can replay this as many times. You can pause and start it and take notes. Okay. So our 3-bet range is going to be very heavy suited eights and offsuit tens for a couple of reasons. First, we want to 3-bet these suited eights because we don't block folds. So we don't want to have a 9 in our range when we 3-bet because that's the hands they're folding. We don't want to have we don't want to block these hands because those are the ones that are going to fold. So they're opening offsuit nines. We're going to 3-bet suited eights. Okay. And that, kind of correctly, it just is the bottom of our range. Suited eights and offsuit tens is the bottom of our range. Yep. So I like Liam's answer. Under his worst offsuit hand, hands that benefit from folding the bottom. Yep. And this is why we're 3-betting. We want to 3-bet queen 8 suited because we get queen 9 off. We get queen 10 off. We get dominated hands to fold. Yeah, we want to be one above their bottom range. So when we look here, so I just guessed right here, okay? I said we're going to be 3-betting suited 8s and offsuit 10s. When we go cutoff, we're going to go button versus raise from the cutoff, offsuit 10s, suited 8s. It's not like perfect, this strategy, but you can start to see it a little bit. And then like king 7, king 6, king 5. These hands, they don't interact with the folding range from the button. If we go to 60 big blinds, this might be a little clearer for these 3-bet because we 3-bet more. So here you see it a lot better. We're 3-betting offsuit 10s and suited 8s a lot. Queen 8, jack 8, 9 8, you see some 10 7, 9 7. These are all like the worst hands that we flat. So with the offsuit 10s, don't we block king 10, queen 10 that are folding? Yep, we are. But like in general, your worst offsuit hands are just always going to perform better as 3-bets. Offsuit hands just don't flat call very well because they don't play well multi-way. Yeah, like 3 times the raise is fine. So if you kind of see here, we're just 3-betting on the suited side. This is pretty much just 3-betting the worst of our flatting range versus the cutoff. Okay? And offsuit 10s. This is going to change though. So let's get a little trickier. Okay? Would you 3-bet these hands versus someone that has a tight pre-flop raise? Well, obviously, if they're not raising the accurate range from the cutoff, you would tighten up your 3-betting range and 3-bet more like you're facing a low jack raise because they're tighter. So how I do it is I just mix all my offsuit 10s. I 3-bet them all like 50-50. And that's about the right frequency. But most people here, like this is a 12% 3-bet. Most people on the button 3-bet like 7%, 8%. And it's because they miss all these offsuit hands. So that makes up a majority of the range. So let's get a little trickier now, okay? And so now we're going to say, we're going to say 60 big blinds because it makes it a little easier. You're on the button facing a low jack raise. What types of hands do you want to 3-bet? Okay, you're facing a low jack raise. What types of hands do you want to 3-bet? How are you going to figure that out? Couple of step process. I like Kevin's answer. Okay, I'm seeing some good answers. Okay. What's their opening range? That's part of the answer you got to figure out. Okay, so here's how I'm going to figure it out. Okay, this is like, okay, here's how my process goes. First, what is bottom of low jack opening? Okay, it's going to be offsuit 10s and suited 8s. Okay, so a lot of my 3-bets are going to come from then suited 9s, which is right below their offsuit 10s. I don't want to block their 10s. It's going to be suited 9s and then like offsuit broadways. Offsuit broadways are kind of always going to be in there. Excuse me. So offsuit 9s, or I would say offsuit broadway suited 9s is where a lot of my 3-bets come from. Okay? So button versus low jack, offsuit broadways, suited 9s. Okay? Jack 9, Jack 8. As you get to like higher cards, now when I say suited 9s, okay, this is kind of a trick too that I remember. Like a lot of these like weaker suited, like we don't 3-bet ace 9 suited. And the reason is like obviously an ace is a lot stronger. So like we start to 3-bet some of this weaker stuff. But in general, again, it's kind of the weakest suited hands that are flatting or 3-betting. You see some of these weaker suited hands, and then these offsuit broadways just always 3-bet. Why not suited eights? Now, suited eights, the reason you don't want to 3-bet suited eights, and you see they're all pretty much out, is because we're against a stronger opening range, and therefore we need to have stronger hands to bluff with. So that's why we don't want to 3-bet, 10-8 suited, queen 8 suited very much, because we're up against a stronger opening range, and we want more equity when we get called. So if we look versus under the gun, we're not going to 3-bet, 10-8 suited. We're 3-betting a lot stronger suited hands now. So the under the gun range is like mostly like offsuit jacks and stuff. So you see we're 3-betting a lot of these king 9, king 8, queen 9. Like they're a lot stronger hands that we 3-bet. So the stronger the range we're up against, the more these bottom hands that we 3-bet are folds if we get 4-bet. Yep. So, I didn't want to get too much into this 3-bet versus call today. Because there's something else I want to talk about. So you don't want to 3-bet low blockers. So what I mean here is, so like we're facing the low jack, okay? So let's look at the low jack's calling range. So low jack, it has to do with their response. So versus 3-bet from the button. So this is the low jack's response when we 3-bet them on the button. What hands are folding? Offsuit 10s, offsuit jacks, right? So we're not going to 3-bet any suited 10s. Okay, they're too strong at hands. We don't want to 3-bet a suited 10 because it's too strong here. We're going to see that 3-bet like suited 9s mostly, and then we're going to 3-bet like offsuit jacks and 10s because these offsuit hands just always work into a 3-bet range. And you can go back to the button chart, and that's going to kind of be the case. Did you come up with the suited stuff? Like I didn't come up with it. Like I've kind of derived it, like other people use it too. It's like everything I learn is not like, I didn't create anything that I learned. All my information I give to you guys is like my years of experience of like, I'm like a sponge. I just take information from everyone and apply what I think is most efficient. Yeah, all these webinars will be online. Sometimes it takes a day or two, but most of them get online like tomorrow. So, okay. So what I want to talk to now is how we can use these new rules we have for board coverage for post-flop play. Because I'm going to do a whole series, the next like series of sessions we're going to do is just playing from the button. And corresponding, we'll have some big blind work. But we're going to work a lot on button play coming up. Mostly because that's what I'm working on right now because I need to improve my button win rate. So the nice thing about working with Jonathan, I can make my webinars based off, kind of what I want to study my own. So you guys are going to kind of get a regurgitation of everything that I'm studying. But, okay. So how do we use these rules to help us in post-flop play? What's a good button win rate? Like 35 big blinds per 100, something like that. But it depends. If you're playing against softer fields, like you should probably win more. Depends kind of on the fields you're playing against. So, how do we use these rules to help us play post flop? Okay. I didn't prepare anything for this part, but I want to talk about it. Where's my poker tracker? All right, let's get here. Let's open up poker tracker. How is it looked upon at tables if we're using our cell phone to look up these charts? I wouldn't. I don't. Don't use these charts while you're playing. First, it's against the rules, okay, to use these charts while you're playing. Second, if you use them as a crutch, you're never going to learn them. And what I'm about to talk to you is why you want to learn these charts. Even more so than pre-flop, there's another reason why you need to learn these charts, and that's for post-flop play. So let's do something here. Let's do a hand report. Let's take off some tags. I want to find a random hand here. From yesterday, we'll do that. And I just want to do a random hand with a Preflop, I want to do button versus big blind, something like that. Okay. We're going to do actions, opportunities, preflop, flop raises, raise first in, and we're going to do saw river. Actions and opportunities, river, saw river. Okay. So we're going to look at a hand here. Okay. Ooh. Let's look at, let me find a good board texture here. Okay. Let's look at this board. Actually, no. I want to go statistics. I want to look at how do you sun in 125K? I don't know what you mean. Okay. We're going to look at the button here. Okay, we'll start with this board. Okay. This wasn't planned, but we're going to talk about this. Queen 10 off, okay? I raise pre-flop, big blind calls. We're going to assume no ICM, no anything. This is chip EV. Oh, how did I do in the Sunday 125? I don't know. I don't know how I did in the Sunday 125, okay, to be honest. Okay. So we raise on the button, big blind calls. Flop comes king 6-6, okay? How often do you want to see bet this board? How often do you want a continuation bet on this king 6-6 board? Okay, every answer says, almost everyone is saying 100%. And I would say this board is a lot closer to like a 50% C bet. I think you're checking here about 50% of the time. And what Colin said is exactly right. Okay. How many offsuit sixes do we raise in our preflop range? How many offsuit sixes do we raise in our preflop range? 0. So right away, so now that we said 0, most of you guys were saying this is a very high C bet board. Okay? Most of you said this is a very high C bet board. So if we're not raising many offsuit sixes, how often should we really C bet this board very often? Yeah. So if I'm going to go here, I'm going to go to GTO trainer. We'll just pull up this so we can look. This is going to be a very heavy check flop. And the reason is because we don't have any 6x coverage. So we're going to look here. 60 big blinds, big blind versus button, king 6-6. Okay, so king 6-6 rainbow. A lot of you guys said this is like you would bet just here 100%. You might be able to do against like a really weak player, but we're just kind of talking in general here. So you can already see here, what's the big blind doing? Oh, sorry. What's the big blind strategy on this flop? Are they leading a lot or not? They have a pretty big lead percentage. What does that mean? You should probably check a lot because they're supposed to lead, but when they don't, you know, we're checking this board a lot. So this is a 57% check on king 6-6, and that's after the big blind led 24% of the range. So this isn't even a 50%. Like we should probably be betting this board like 40% of the time if we assume they're not leading correctly. And the reason is we don't have any of these offsuit sixes. Okay? King, queen, checking. Ace, king, checking. Checking a lot of these king X hands. That makes sense? Now, what happens when I change this board to king 8-8? What happens on king 8-8? What's our betting frequency on king 8-8? King 8-8, give me a percentage. What percentage of the time are we betting? Okay, I see like 70, okay, good. Yeah, we're betting a lot closer to 100%. There might be like 20% checking, but on king 8-8, what happens? We have all the, what's the bottom of the opening range on the button? What's the bottom of the opening range on the button? Offsuit eights. Okay, so guess what? We have board coverage there, so we get a bet. So there's going to be no leading now from the big blind on king 8-8. Why? Because we're on the button, we have full nut advantage. So now there's 0 leading from the big blind. Why? Because we have all the offsuit 8s. Okay. Checking 25% of the time. Okay, we're checking like some queens and jacks, but in general, lots of betting now. Okay. Now, let's give another flop. All right, queen 7-6 rainbow. So we'll do 40 big blinds, button versus big blind. Okay, button versus big blind on queen 7-6 rainbow. I'm going to minimize it first. How often are we betting on queen 7-6 rainbow on the as the button? 30%, 55%, 50%, 30%. Queen 7-6 rainbow, we don't have any straights. So I've seen answers from 25% to 80%. So, you know, this is like, I thought most people were going to say we bet a lot. This is a board we check a decent amount. But the reason we check, why do we check queen 7-6 a decent amount? Why can I tell you right away we're going to have a pretty good checking range? There's 2 reasons why I know we're going to check a lot on this board. No 7s and 6s, okay? That's very good. That's number 1. You have cap locks on, turn it off. All right? So number 1 reason I know we're going to check this board is we don't have many offsuit 7s or offsuit 6s, right? Everyone agree with that? We need a lot of protection on this board. Yeah. So queen 7-6, we don't have many offsuit 7s and offsuit 6s. Second question, this is a little trickier. What is the bottom of the big blind defending range? What is the bottom of the big blind defending range? Offsuit 6s. Most people got it. Offsuit 6s. So what's going on here is we don't have much coverage of second and third pair, okay? And the big blind has full coverage of second and third pair. So, and I can just tell you, you can take my word for it, like we're going to have a queen about, the big blind and the button are going to have a queen about equal percentages of the time. So if we have a queen about the same amount of time as the big blind, okay, and they have a 7 and a 6 way more often than us because we don't raise all the 7s and 6s. We're at a kind of like, we still have a range advantage here, but we don't want to bet all the time because we're just losing this 7 and 6 war. So you see here, we're checking 46% of the time. Why? Because we don't have all these offsuit 6s and we don't have all the offsuit 7s. If I weight them, like we're kind of missing most of these offsuit 7s. But the big blind has every offsuit 6 and every offsuit 7. So you guys see how I'm starting to put this together to learn post-flop play? So let's take it a step further, okay? So let's say it goes check, big blind checks. Why do we have the range advantage? Because we raise, like, we have a much, like, we have all the top of the range. We probably have like 55% equity on this board. So we're going to say we bet, you know, they check, we bet, you know, like, let's say we bet 2/3. Who cares? On queen 7-6, that's not the point of this. They call. Let's say the river card is, the turn is the jack of hearts. Okay, say that. They check. Let's say we bet. Okay, let's just say we bet whatever. The big blind calls. And let's say the river is the 10 of spades. Okay? Actually, let's say the river is the, they call. I'm just making up a random example because I don't care. The river is the ace of clubs. All right. Let's say the big blind checks. I'm not going to show the imposition strategy. The big blind checks, okay, as the imposition player, and the imposition player shoves. How do we know what ranges, if any, our opponents are playing? You don't, but you got to make the best assumptions you can. And like probably using these charts are a better assumption than whatever guesses you could think of. Okay, so big blind checks. Big blind checks, and All right, so someone says it's a better run out for the button. Yeah, of course it is. The better run out for the button. We got that part. When the button shoves, what are the worst cards for the big blind to bluff catch with? What are the worst cards for the big blind to bluff catch with on this run out? They check, big blind shoves. What is the worst cards to have in your hand? What are the worst ranking of card to have? Yeah, whoever just said 8s and 9s. Let me ask, Demetrius, why did you say 8s and 9s are the worst cards? A couple other people said it too. But I'm going to ask Demetrius because I have him on. So it's not because straight draws are blocked. So a lot of people are saying busted straight draws, okay, yeah. But just think of it, you're making it way too simple. What's the bottom of the button opening range? On Queen 7-6, Jack, what's the bottom of the opening range? What is almost every single bluff from the button? What cards do they have to contain? So offsuit 8s, right? Okay. Every single bluff from the button is probably, not every bluff, but almost every bluff is either going to contain an 8, a 9, or a 10. Okay? So, what would be a better hand to call with? Queen 3 or Queen 8? I don't know if either are going to be a call. I'm just saying. What would be a better hand to call with? Queen 3 or Queen 8? Okay, good. Most of you are saying Queen 3. Why? Why would Queen 3 be better than Queen 8? Someone said don't block bluffs. And where are the bluffs coming from? I don't even know what this hand was. I just made it up. But where do the bluffs have to come from the button? The button has to bluff with offsuit 8s. So they're going to bluff with 8s first, 9s second, 10s third, and then kings fourth potentially. So they're going to bluff with those hands because that's where they have to bluff from. So when they check, okay, and we check in the small blind, button goes all in. Okay, here's Queen 8, pure fold. Here's Queen 3, pure call. Why are we folding? Queen 9, pure fold, almost. There's some blocker stuff here. But Queen 9's folding, Queen 8's folding, but Queen 5 off is calling. Queen 3 off, Queen deuce off. So you guys see right away. Let's look at another one. Let's see here. What's another hand? You see King 7's folding. Why? They might bluff with some King highs. Here's Queen. Yeah. So the main thing right away, I just noticed, I told you right away, Queen 8's going to fold because why? They have to bluff from 8s, 9s, and 10s. So we're folding all those hands, and we call with Queen 3 off because we don't block any bluffs when we have a 3. Okay? But I know that because I know what the bottom of the opening range is. They bluff with 8s, 9s, and 10s. They can't bluff with a jack because that has a pair. They can't bluff with a queen because that has a pair. It's hard to bluff with a king high, like King 10's is straight. They can have King 9 or King 8. So again, they have to have a king in there. Why do we fold Queen 5 suited, call with Queen 5 off? It's probably some type of blocker with suits. Has to do with suits probably. You want to not have diamonds and clubs, it looks like. You want to bluff with spades and stuff, but that's not really the point. This is the point here. Okay? 3s are good, deuces are good. Why is the 5 kind of bad? Why is the 5 kind of bad? Queen 5 off is mixing fold. Why? Yeah. Block suited 5s. That's only if you got to read that they're bluffing because, dude, we are beat. I mean, if you look, you don't have saying you have to have a read they're bluffing isn't really, that's not how I think about poker. How I think about poker is where do the bluffs have to come from if they're bluffing? Well, if we look at the button shoving range, so we bet, they call, and then it was the ace of clubs on the turn. And we check, and when we look at the bluffs, I'm going to turn the weights off so we can actually see them. Where are the bluffs coming from? 8x, 9x, 8x, 9x. Can't bluff a jack 8, can't bluff a queen 8, king 8 suited, bluffing. Then suited 5s are also where they come from. 9-5, 10-5. king 5, king 4, 10, 4. So it's a lot easier to figure out where the bluffs are coming from when you actually know the pre-flop ranges. Now let's change the river. Let's say the ace of clubs. Let's change it to a 10. So let's say you call, and then the river is the 10 of spades. Okay. And you check. You shove. Like an ace is probably a pretty bad card to call with because a lot of the bluffs are going to come from an ace, I would guess. This is kind of screwed up. This is how I did the ranges or something. I don't know. Okay. If it was versus cutoff, the worst cards to bluff catch with would be a 9x or 10x, since those are the bottom of their range. Correct. I can't see who that sent. And so this is perfect. So Dieter said, if I understand it correct, if it was versus cutoff, the worst cards to bluff catch would be a 9 or a 10, since those are the bottom of the offsuit range. Correct. So now, like, calling with an 8 would be good, but calling with a 9 would be bad. So you got it 100% right, Dieter. That's why we fold queen 5. Yeah, because we block suited 5s with the queen 5. So that's why 3s and deuces are the best hands to call with. Okay? All right. So that's like a whole nother thing, but I wanted to explain how I use this post-flop. I use the same rules to understand post-flop and understand both bluff catching and knowing where I need to bluff from as a raiser, where the bottom of my range is. And it's all very helpful and very useful. And this is how kind of I think about poker a lot. Okay? This is like a simplified version of how I think about poker. So that's what I got for you today. See what we got. Any questions? I'll answer questions for a couple minutes. Every day I listen and I realize how much I don't know. I don't know a lot about poker. Poker's freaking hard. Good segue into the post-flop stuff was great. Perfect. Yeah, that's why I wanted to start off with this. What's the best thing you've bought with your winnings? I don't buy much when I win money. That's how people go broke. Like they win like 30,000 and then they act like they spend like they're that much richer. Where if you win 30,000 and you keep acting like you didn't win 30,000, that's how you like, if we win 30,000, my girlfriend and I will go to like a nice dinner for like $100 or something like that. $150. That's how we spend our money. Do I use Pio? Yes, all the time. Broke people stay broke because they live like they're rich. That's a pretty good way to think about it. So when you're bluff catching, could you tell me your thought process? First, when I'm bluff catching, I think, okay, what are my pot odds? What's my minimum defense frequently? Second, I think, is my hand a bluff catcher? Do I beat any value hands? Do I beat all bluffs? Third, I think, are my blockers negatively and positively? So do I block bluffs and do I block value? And then that's kind of how I go about thinking about bluff catching. Will you do a course on multi-way post-flop action? Would like to do a multi-way post-flop action course. And I probably will at some point, but I think there's a lot more basics I want to cover. How do you figure out major pre-flop leaks when reviewing a hand history? So when I review a hand history, I always have my charts up and I review every single pre-flop spot. Just compare to the charts. That's how you do it. What's the smallest effective stack that you would min raise with instead of shove pre-flop towards the end of a tournament? Like, I don't know, 9 big blinds, 8 big blinds? And you consider player ranges if you have history with them. I mean, if I have history with someone, sure, I'll use my HUD. We went MDF stuff today. If there is a raise and a call, then your action, how's the MDF calculated? MDF 3 ways is just the cubed root or the square root of the normal MDF. Oh yeah, congrats to I forgot Kelly who won the 100K on ACR. I might have said that last week. I can't remember. Do you need a big sample of tourneys before you coach us? I play cash, so it's hard to get a hand history. I mean, takes a big sample size in tournaments in order to do a database review. Oh, MDF, I don't really use preflop, Galen, if that's what you're asking. How do you select which hands to review? I mark hands where I don't know what to do, and then I study them. So if you could tell me one thing to get great, learn how to play preflop. That's what I'll tell you. What are your thoughts on ACR? I play on there all the time. Would you recommend GTO Trainer? I use it a lot. You guys have seen it recently a lot. I think it's really good. It's a good alternative to PO Solver for a lot of people. Yeah, 20 big blinds, I use more min raises. 20 big blinds, we want to min raise more because we're more likely to get jammed on. Great webinar. Thanks a lot. I need to review them. All looks good. Would we want to stick to the GTO ranges we used here to play the soft $10 to? Yeah, I wouldn't go tighter than like the ranges. I try to play GTO ranges pretty much, or I go looser, depending on how tight my opponents are. Khalil, under the gun 1, king queen off, 25 big blinds effective. Under the gun goes all in for 8 big blinds. King queen off is a fold. You have too many people left to act. King queen off is a fold. Is it $300 a month for GTO Trainer? This version I have is $300 a month. Who are you on ACR? Nitro. No. If it goes limp and the cutoff raises, do you use a similar calling range from the button in big blind? No. You have to adjust your ranges then. Is GTO cheaper than PO Solver? No. PO Solver is like $500, but that's a one-time fee. GTO Trainer is a monthly subscription. So next week, I think we're going to be working a lot on c-betting from the button. Very basic stuff. We're going to be going kind of through some basic fundamentals. So we're going to be doing a lot of c-betting from the button and which board textures that we c-bet the most, and c-bet frequencies and c-bet sizings. A little bit of aggregate report work. So in the small stakes, do you recommend bluff check raising the river? Sure. People fold a lot. Coke or Pepsi. I don't really drink soda pop anymore. Why do I tend to win more from the cutoff than the button? Probably because you're making some leaks playing from the button. That's one of the things I am not winning enough from the button, and I'm currently winning about the same as from the cutoff. So therefore, that's why I'm working a lot more on my button ranges. You're also probably you're probably playing too tight on the button. Beatles or the Rolling Stones? Both. All right. Any more questions? Is there good tournaments in Vegas at the moment with all the stuff going on? No idea. I know they've done some big fields, but I have no interest in playing them right now. But opponents in the small stakes don't bluff the river enough. So could you explain? Sure. If they're not bluffing, then fold. But if they're value betting thin and you think they're going to fold too many of their value hands, then you can start bluffing. But yeah, if they're not value betting thin enough and they're not bluffing enough, then yeah, check raising the river does not make sense at that point. So I think you kind of answered your own question. Cobra Kai on Netflix. People say I should watch. Okay. Who is WSOP Boy 93 on ACR? I know who it is, but I'm not going to say it publicly. I seem to get deep, but seem to fizzle out late. What can I do? You're probably playing too tight. I would go through, make sure you're hitting all your pre-flop ranges. But that's what's supposed to happen. As the tournament goes on, like people always say, oh, I get chips early and then I bleed out and bust the tournament. Well, that's what's supposed to happen in tournaments. The blinds go up. Everyone's getting shorter as the tournament goes on. So it's not like you're probably maybe not doing anything wrong. Thank you, Rashid. He says, most practical, helpful webinar yet. Make the Greek couscous salad yet? What is it? One of my tabs or something? Yes, I make that a lot. I save a lot. I cook a lot. Yeah. Yes, Joseph, that's a chef. How big of a leak is missing an open? Well, folding is zero EV, and we only raise hands that are positive EV open. So you're missing a little EV a lot, and those little EVs add up over the long run. Though you're probably missing you might only miss like a small EV here, a small EV here, a small EV here, but that's gonna add up a lot over the long run. So that's probably where you're missing a lot of your win rate from. All right, I gotta go. So you guys have a good week. Study pre-flop. Everyone study pre-flop for 2 hours this week. That's your homework. I want everyone to spend 2 hours studying pre-flop. If you only have 3 hours to study poker this week, I want you to spend all 3 hours studying pre-flop. I don't care a lick about playing post-flop. If you have 10 hours to study this week, I want you to spend at least 3 or 4 of them on pre-flop work. Okay? Because a lot of you guys need it. Just being blunt and honest. Most people do not study pre-flop a lot. Especially the American regs. I can say this. A lot of the American regs, their pre-flop ranges are crazy, weird. They're random. So they have no structure to their ranges. Okay. All right. Sounds good, guys. Talk soon.